Welcome to your latest Nottingham Forest news. Coming up on today's episode, Mark Clattenburg speaks out about his time at Nottingham Forest. Sels is called up to the Belgium squad. Safe standing has been confirmed by Forest, and Danilo expects better things next season. All this coming up on your latest Forest news. Let's get into it. Good morning, good evening, or good night. Hope you guys are doing well, and welcome to your latest Nottingham Forest news. Please don't forget, as always, hit that like button. Get 642 likes. And if you're not subscribed, hit that subscribe button, because 38% of you are watching this unsubscribed. It's completely free to do. Click that button down there, and you've only got a few hours to grab your signed Chris Wood shirt from Football Prizes. The link's pinned in the comments. You've got till, I believe, 7:30. Okay, let's kick this off with the Mark Clattenburg story. So Mark Clattenburg was on a podcast yesterday. It was Ben Heath podcast, a guy I'm not too familiar with, but did speak very well and asked some interesting questions to Clattenburg. And it was about his time at Nottingham Forest and how it came to an end. What I found interesting about it was, one, it sounded like there was still a good relationship between himself and Marinakis. That spans back to his time in the Greek league and Marinakis there, and it looks like they left on good terms. However, Clattenburg didn't want to directly say it, but he blamed the likes of Sky Sports, I'll say it, and Gary Neville for almost trying to hound him out of his job. And when asked about what he actually did, I'll be honest with you, I still don't know even after he's explained it. What I do know is he doesn't like to be called a refereeing analysis. That seems like a big taboo and a big no-no for him. But he gave examples of how he helped Forest. He talked about the Liverpool game, about when the drop ball was done incorrectly, and how he explained to the players in retrospect, what you should do is hold onto the ball for dear life until you're given the ball back on a drop ball. And he talks about a couple of other incidents, the Everton game, etc. It just still made me sit there and think, how has that helped us? Because he was talking about, what was the word he used? Sporting advantage. Giving Forest a sporting advantage by appointing him. And I don't see it. Nothing against him, but it's all hindsight. It's all after the fact for me still, even after he's explained what he did. Because you can't rewind time. This isn't Prince of Persia, man. You can't bring back the sands of time and go back and change what's happened. And on top of that, I don't think that he was the center of attention as much as he thought he did. He talked about how this added pressure onto his family life, how his daughter was worried about if she could still go to school and do other activities that she wanted to do, all because he said there was a lot of focus on him from the mainstream media, and in specific, Gary Neville. So, what did this show us, and how did it end? Well, what we found out as well from it was that he was not behind the tweet. The infamous tweet from Nottingham Forest. He said that had nothing to do with him. He was too far down the pecking order to get involved in that. He still does believe 2 out of the 3 were penalties, the third one being a stonewaller as well. But he said after that, he felt that he had to leave. Not because of what Gary Neville said, but he believed that the spotlight was coming too much on him and not on the club, and it was taking away from the club. Now, I don't exactly agree with him on that point. I think after that tweet, everyone was just talking about Forest. But at least he has some principles, so I can respect that if he himself believed that was the case and he wanted to take himself out of the limelight to allow Forest to be focused on, then he was going to do that. Maybe that shows you a bit too much of an ego. Maybe it's genuine. I don't know. He did come across like a nice guy. He talked quite openly and honestly. But honestly, I'm glad the experiment is over. And he also believes, like I do, that the English League isn't ready for these kind of positions, referee analysis or the Clattenburg analysis, whatever you want to call it. But what he did explain was how he left on mutual terms of Forest, no ill will, nothing like that. And that's his time done. But it was an interesting podcast. Go give it a listen. I'll see if I can leave the link in the description down below for you. But Clattenburg speaks out, and he really does not like the likes of Gary Neville. Now, he was asked as well, did he think that the refs were being biased against Forest because of his appointment? And he said that honestly, he hoped not. He didn't come out and flat out deny it and say, of course they're not. Why would they be? There's integrity and everything like that. He just said he hoped that was not the case. And they spoke about Stuart Twatwell as well, about the Luton appointment, him supporting Luton and the appointment on VAR to the Everton game. And I found that quite fascinating because he then broke down how they need to declare not only who they support, but who their family supports, and if any of them have season tickets. And had Stuart Twatwell declared that he was a Luton fan, or I believe his sister or brother or something has a season ticket at Luton, then it was an oversight by the PGMOL to have appointed him on VAR just because of the controversy that it caused in the Everton match. So there was a few interesting things. It was interesting to hear why he left Forest, but go check it out yourselves and get your thoughts in the comments. Okay, let's move on to some positive news, and Matz Sels has been called up to the Euros for Belgium alongside Mangala, who technically still is a Nottingham Forest player. And with Courtois not being called up to the Belgium squad, there's a really good chance that we will see Sels perform for Belgium during the Euros. And what's interesting, and I was having a think about this, and I haven't researched it fully yet, I'm going to let you guys do the research. I started thinking, how many Forest players are actually going to the Euros this summer? Outside of Sels and Mangala, I'm kind of scratching my head a little. When you look back at when we came up into the Premier League, yes, granted the main tournament then was a World Cup. Forest had about 12 players going to the World Cup. But when it comes to the Euros, we've only got 1 or 2. By my counting, you guys will definitely correct me in the comments. But call it 4. Call it 3, call it 5, whatever it may be. Is this an indication of our squad still needing to be strengthened? Because you would expect, as a now semi-established Premier League team, again, I know it's only been 2 years, but Forest would start to get a lot more internationals into the fold, into the mix. Now, I'm not necessarily saying they need to be playing for England, but you would expect some of the regulars in there to be playing in the Euros. Now, granted, we have a lot of Brazilians, Nottingham, Rainforest and what have you, so we should see a few of them in maybe the Copa America tournament when that comes up, if they're still at Forest. But it just makes me question, do we still need to strengthen this squad further with more internationally based players who have that international experience? Does worry me a little, but that's a whole topic for another point. The point here is Sels makes it through to Belgium, and him getting time at the Euros will of course do him the world of good, especially playing alongside the likes of De Bruyne, etc. That team looks quite strong and could go quite far in the tournament. And maybe as well, if Mangala starts and has a good performance, we may see that move to Lyon be secured, or his price value going up. Now, the tournament itself starts, I believe, on the 14th of June. Transfer window opens on the 30th of June. So it's going to be interesting to see how Forest get that business done to get that PSR, get their heads over that PSR line before the 30th of June, when a lot of the players will be in training camps and in the Euros in that period. So pucker up your buttholes. It's going to be a stressful couple of weeks as we move into June, as Forest need to get their business done. But congratulations to Sels and Mangala, who have been called up. Moving on to the next item of news, and that's that the safe standing has been confirmed by Nottingham Forest, and they have also released which blocks and which stands this is in. And on the safe standing thing, I quite like it. I remember a lot of times, especially if I was in like the Cluffy end, if I stood up, there was a few, shall we say, ant-aged people around me who would grab you by the shoulders and tell you to sit down, we can't see, etc. I get it. But it's good to see that safe standing is coming back into football. I think it helps create a bit more of an atmosphere. So let me just read you out the club statement. It also will affect some season ticket holders. So if you've renewed your season ticket or got a season ticket, double check where you're sitting, of course, and let me just read this out to you. So the information relating to the season ticket, a season card relocation window below, as we confirmed these areas will be converted to safe standing. Let me get the words out. For the 24-25 season, Upper Bridgeford Stand blocks U1 and U2, all seats, all rows. Lower Bridgeford Stand Y2, Z1 and Z2, all seats on rows N to Z, and P block seats 230 to 243 on all rows will be converted to safe standing areas. Work on the P block seats may not be completed in time for the start of the season. If this is the case, work will be completed within the first 3 matches. And for any season ticket holders affected by the introduction of safe standing at the City Ground wishing to relocate, or anyone who had to relocate out of Block D, season card relocation is open from 10 a.m. today until the 4th of June at 5 p.m. So go get your seats if you want them in there, or if you're in there and you don't want the safe standing, make sure you do move. But it's good to see that's coming in, and we should be seeing it across a lot of Premier League grounds going forward, and it will be good to see how the atmosphere sounds with that. So quick update there from you from a club perspective, and also it may impact you directly. Let's move on. Okay, let's move on to Danilo, who has done an interview, and he has been talking about his time at Nottingham Forest and about Nuno Espirito Santos. Danilo just seems to have a constant smile on his face and a constant happy attitude when it comes to his football and to life. He talked about when he first came to Nottingham Forest and how they helped him, having the likes of Lodi, Scarpa, Felipe, all the Brazilians that we had last season to help him settle in. Excuse me. And on top of that, he talks about how he's been enjoying his football, the challenges of the Premier League, and 10-pin bowling when he feels like he misses home. That's the way he goes, with Pizza Hut as well being his favoured restaurant when he's allowed to eat a bit of junk food. And he talks about, more importantly, what the ambitions are for Forest going forward next season. They will not, or he says they do not want to be, in any kind of relegation battle, and should be looking higher up the table to achieve better and greater things for Forest. And less stress, may I add, for us fans. He's very keen on Nuno. He thinks he comes with clear ideas. What's interesting is he talked about how Nuno wanted to play a possession-based game, a more attacking style of football versus previous management. Not that he said previous management, but the comparison was there, and that he was improving them as players. So the other key thing as well is he still doesn't speak fluent English. So having Nuno in there with a Portuguese speaking manager helps him a lot, helps him understand and develop and get those messages across. So Danilo, who still, let me remind you, has 5 years left on his contract, who I don't think reached, if I'm being honest, the dizzy heights that he did towards the latter end of last season, still has a lot of room and a lot of time to grow. Coming into Forest at 21 now, pushing 22, he still has plenty of time to develop into a cracking player, but does need to settle down. And I think for him as a priority this summer, start learning a bit more English. Just seems to help settle players in my opinions. But the interesting news is the expectations from him, from Nuno, from the club, that they will not be fighting a relegation battle next season. And that, of course, will all derive on who we keep and who we buy going forward. The stories about Callum Hudson-Odoi are still out there, as Spurs are claiming they are front runners, as Ange Postecoglou claims that he would fit into Spurs like a glove, and there's still the rumours surrounding Morgan Gibbs-White with Newcastle, and of course Murillo with Liverpool. On top of that though, there's still no settlement on whether Nuno is staying or going, but right now the working assumption is that he will be staying. Boys coming anywhere near my club. And that, ladies and gents, brings you up to date with your latest Nottingham Forest news. No sexy, exciting signings to talk to you about today, but we only bring you the news, we don't make it. If you've enjoyed the content, please don't forget to hit that like button. Subscribe to Forest Fan TV if you are new. And we'll see you on the next video. Come on, you Reds.